Let's get to rocking and rolling. And yes, we are through the cold snap.
Good.
Thankfully, it was not as bad as 2021 was. But if you ask me, because I am not a fan of the cold, I don't like it under 60 degrees. So
it was minus 17 in Branson. So
yeah,
it's not fun. I don't want to go through it again.
Not me. All right, Hal, let us know when we're up and we'll jump in and start rocking and rolling. All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody. I'm James Haney with Alamo REA and Greater Houston REA. And the gentleman you just heard me call his name is Hal. He's our tech support, our IT guy. And if you do not have a Hal on your team, you definitely need one. But we're here joined tonight by a very special guest, Robyn Thompson, the queen of rehab. She's going to be making an in-person appearance in Texas in January. In fact, we were just talking. She's taking off 2023 because she's got a humongous project that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So she's going to take the year off and focus on that. And we are her last groups that she's going to come speak to before she takes off. She's got one other event after that, but that's it. So good evening, Robyn, and thanks for joining us tonight and doing this ahead of your visit.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on. So it was good to be able to talk to everybody a little bit ahead of time.
Yes, we can never. I always say we can never get enough of Robyn. So just to give you a little bit of background on Robyn, I've heard her speak a few times, and I've gotten to know her really well over this past year and a half or so. And she is a queen. She's out there rocking and rolling over her 9 years that she's been into real estate after her dead end corporate job. She has done over 450 flips. The project that I was just talking about, she's building 100 Airbnb units in Branson. She'll give you the better details on that. So she has definitely been through some things and learned some lessons, and she's very passionate about teaching others to where they don't have to go through some of the things that she went through, which is one of the cool things, with success and, people that have learned lessons, you can learn from theirs. So with that, let Robyn polish that up a little bit.
All right. Well, I left my dead-end job 25 years ago now. I went to work one day and thought it was going to be an average day at IBM, and they had never, ever laid anybody off ever in history. And so they went through a massive downsizing, and I was at corporate accounting, and that was the first organization they decided to eliminate. My group of accountants, there were 503 of us, and within 2 weeks, there was only 275 left. So I learned real quick, James, that corporate life isn't fair, and it doesn't mean that if you do the best job in the world and work 80 hours a week that you're going to have a job tomorrow. I gave IBM everything I had for 9.5 years and had planned to be a lifer. And so they kind of threw me sideways when it happened because I wasn't ready for it. I had nothing in savings, $500. I had nothing in a retirement because I wasn't contributing to what IBM was putting in there. I had a boatload of debt. Credit card debt, student loans not paid off. And then, I had just bought a brand new townhouse. And of course, being a young person, you only put 5% down and borrow the closing costs. So let's just say it was 100% leverage. So the day they made the announcement, I thought for sure I was going to lose my job. And I was one of the unlucky people who ended up staying with the company. I was cheap on the salary grid, and they let go a lot of the folks that had been there 20 and 30 years. I ended up not only with my job, but 2 other people's jobs, but no pay increase and no chance of a pay increase for the next 3 or 4 years. So it was hell on wheels after that happened. The camaraderie was zero, and basically everybody was miserable. So I started looking for other things to do. So I went and got my real estate license, thought I'd become a realtor, and if I could just sell a couple houses and make some extra money to try to get a house payment ahead or a car payment ahead before they did the second round of cuts. That was the game plan. Ran into a little fixer-upper property that I bought, ended up fixing it up, doing a lot of the work myself. doing paint late at night and tearing out cabinetry and all kinds of fun stuff. Took a long time to do the house. And when I sold it, it didn't look all that much better than when I bought it. But at least when I sold it, I made about $10,000 on it. And so that was like 3 months pay. And I was like, oh my God, if I could just find 2 of these or 3 of these a year, if there's just these lucky deals out there, then, I'd be doubling my salary. And I had no idea how many foreclosures there were and estate sales and people that are getting sued who need to get rid of a house, people getting through divorce and all these kind of medical issues. I had no idea there were hundreds and hundreds of motivated, desperate sellers all over. And so once my eyes got opened, kind of learning at School of Hard Knocks, my first real year, I did 6 houses. The second year, I did 17, and I found hard money. And hard money, I don't ever begrudge paying 15% interest and 5 points for the hard money I borrowed in my young years. After finding that money source, my third year where I built a construction bunch of fellas, I was able to do 51 houses my third year and made a little over $1 million. I quit after about 18 months because, and buy a house, fix it up and sell it and make as much as you do in 4 or 5 months working a job. I realized real quick that if I focus really hard on the rehab business, it will make me a lot more than my corporate days. And so I don't know, today, 470 some later, I'm still rehabbing and I'll rehab houses till I die. I love it. I like taking a mess that somebody doesn't want and doesn't love. And I like putting love and tenderness into it and giving it a lot of hard work. And next thing you know, it's a gorgeous little house that somebody gets to have Christmas and holidays there. And so the checks are big, but you got to deal with contractors to get that done. So the challenge with the rehab business is once you sell it, you get your big check, you got to go back to work and find another deal. So I don't want to say it's a job, but the challenge is once you sell it, there's no more paydays coming. That's one of the reasons I moved into doing, rentals in my life. And I've done low-end rentals. I've done high-end rentals on the golf course. And then about 4.5 years ago, I actually got into the vacation rental business, the Airbnb and VRBO business. And that one there is the most phenomenal piece of real estate I have ever seen. So I flip houses to buy vacation rentals. I flip to keep, I flip to keep, I flip to keep, because the passive income of the vacation rentals is phenomenal. And the cool thing, just so everybody can understand it in third grade level education, if you want, the vacation rental, if you run it right, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to coming to teach that with you guys, is if you run the vacation rentals correctly, they make 3 times what a normal rental property will make. And I've owned rentals for 25 years. But for me, I'm converting all the rentals over to vacation rentals because they make so much more. And so, James, let me give you an example. One of the houses I had as a rental for 5.5 years, it was making $1,450 a month. Great community, great neighborhood. I flipped that over to a vacation rental and furnished it, and it does just around $60,000 a year gross. Now net, after all the expenses, is about 48. So you can see that instead of collecting $1,450 a month, to do 48,000, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, I got property taxes that are the same no matter what. I got house insurance that's the same no matter what. So it's not that much more expensive to have it as a vacation rental. But damn, the revenue is much, much better. And I'm just pretty conservative, old school accountant bean counter. I take the extra that the house makes and throws it on the mortgage because I like my houses paid for. I don't like a lot of debt. I don't like a high leverage debt. And that's what's scary if we are hanging on a recession coming. These folks that are heavily leveraged on a lot of properties can get in real trouble quick because we've had run-ups in prices that have been astronomical. I like getting my stuff paid down and paid off because that way you can't lose it. And so that's why, for me, the vacation rentals, if you run the business correctly, you can get them paid off in 5 years. So think about having a bunch of keeper properties that throw really good money paid off in 5 years. And that's one of the reasons I'm in the building of a bunch of them right now, is because I can't come up with any other type of real estate investment where the returns are as high as they are. And lots of people are taking money out of the stock market and moving it into the vacation rental business right now.
So, Robyn, I'm gonna throw you a little curveball here.
Okay, you can throw me any curveball you want, buddy. This is up to you to ask me whatever you think these folks need to know. You know your group's better than anybody else, so you ask me anything you want.
So we have the potential in our Facebook groups and in our upcoming meetings and everything, and they could potentially be watching here tonight. We have a lot of new people that could potentially be watching, and a lot of people think a lot of people just jumping in, which there's going to be new people jumping in because it's the new year. They want to start fresh. They want to start something new.
Right.
And a lot of people think they have to go into wholesaling, but after everything that you just went through, I didn't hear you talk about one word about wholesaling or signing a contract. And I don't want to beat up wholesaling because there is a time for it and a place for it. But it just impresses me that you went through all of that without doing any wholesaling. So what piece of advice would you give the new people that are looking at wholesaling as, hey, that's how I have to get started, when there's other ways to get started?
Well, I'm not going to badmouth wholesaling because I think it's still great and I still do.
Yeah.
Find a deal, give it to somebody else and get paid $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000. And I mean, James, last year I paid a wholesaler $40,000 on one they brought to me. They left me $250,000 in profit in the deal. So I'm never going to turn my nose up at wholesaling. I think it's a great strategy and all people should learn how to do it. The beginners, especially, because what happens is they learn how to find it and they learn how to sell it. And I mean, basically rehabbing is 4 steps: find it, fund it, fix it, sell it. So wholesaling to me is find it, sell it. So you cover number 1 and number 2. So if they get 2 steps out of 4 going, they're halfway to being able to rehab and make a lot of profit. And if you got fear or negative family members that tell you can't do this, wholesaling by golly, makes some decent money. So go ahead and get some checks coming in and that'll build your self-confidence. But, one of the things I did, because I did get my real estate license in the beginning, because I didn't know anything about wholesaling, all the houses I couldn't buy and I couldn't afford, whenever I would do mailers or I would put signs out or I would put postcards out, I would get all these houses coming in I couldn't afford. So I would just give them to the top listing realtor over at Remax and he would go ahead and list them. And then I got paid 25% of the commission for the houses I didn't want. I made $80,000 my first year as a realtor referring listings to the top producer who could sell the stuff. I was afraid of a $400,000 house. I was living in a $60,000 condo in the not good neighborhood. So if I had a $400,000 desperate seller call, I just gave that to Frank and left him list it. And then I got 25% of his 3%. So I made $80,000 in real estate referral money my first year. So that was kind of wholesaling, I guess. I mean, it wasn't really having to do all the paperwork, but it was taking a deal that somebody else didn't want and passing it off. So, there's more than one way to skin a cat at this. And I think the most important thing is to get the young folks out looking. And they realize real quickly how many people need them. You don't have to be a great negotiator. You don't have to be a Harvard MBA with negotiations. You have to be compassionate and care and listen to what the person needs and then figure out how to give them what they need. And if you can do that, then that's where the deals are made. I mean, let me give you an example. I had a lady, I bought her house. Her husband was dying of cancer. She just wanted to go home to be with her daughters about 1,000 miles away. And her biggest obstacle was, what was she going to do with 57 years of furniture, 57 years of lawn equipment, 57 years of his tools and rakes and shovels and power saws? And none of the wholesalers that went and looked at that house offered to just take it full of stuff. And I said, listen, we'll just move whatever you can take with you, but whatever you can't take, you don't have to get rid of all this stuff. We'll get rid of all of it. And so they were also concerned about the numbers, the money, structuring the deal, and trying to steal it out from under her. You don't need to do that. When I told her, listen, we'll just put little Post-it notes on what furniture the movers take, and whatever Post-it notes you don't stick on something, then we leave it, and I'll deal with getting rid of all the furniture. So she was 80. She can't lift that stuff or move it. Kids were too busy to come down and help. He was really sick, and they only gave him 6 months to live. So I realized what she needed is to get to her daughters and her grandchildren to spend whatever quality days they had left for however long they had. That's what she needed. They wasn't getting every penny out of the house. And so I think with the beginners, what they need to do is get out there and be a human and listen to what they want and not be afraid to ask questions about what they want. And then try to fill the need of what they're asking for. And I think if they do that, they're going to realize they don't need to be as super smart as they think sometimes. This is a people business for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the one good thing on the vacation rental side, if students want to try starting a vacation rental business, what we call rental arbitrage, where you actually rent the house and then you vacation rental it, that's a great strategy to get into a vacation rental without needing a lot of money. And I'll use my adopted son as the example there. He taught me that lesson. He rented this little beach house from a woman in her 70s for $1,250 a month. It's a rough little rustic bungalow, little 2-bedroom. He did $40,000 in vacation rental on it in North Carolina this year. And he pays her $1,250 a month for rent. And the woman's happy that he's taking care of the maintenance and he's, you know, shoveling the snow when it snows and cutting the grass for her and that. And she's collecting $1,250 a month on a fixed income on Social Security. So that's a big plus for her. So rental arbitrage is one way to get going too in different types of real estate transactions where you don't need a lot of money up front. And when we're together, I'll make sure that I go, since you're going to have a lot of brand new folks, I'll make sure we go through the basics at the nightly meeting and on the weekend to make sure I don't, you know, go too deep too quick and lose anybody.
Okay. So again, it's about, you know, solving the problems and everything. I've heard that story before, and it's really, I love hearing stories like that.
Well, you know, James, one of the things I want to make sure I do when I'm there is cover with these folks how to make 3 offers on a house, not just one. I'll make sure that we go through, you know, how you structure more than one offer to a seller, so that way they get a better chance of getting a yes instead of just a low cash offer. I mean, if all they have is, oh, I'm going to do this low cash number, they're going to get a lot of negative no's from the seller. And so we'll cover multiple offers when I'm in town. That way they'll have a much better chance of getting sellers to accept what they're given. You got me, or did I lose you? All right. Well, as long as it's not my internet. Sometimes my internet's spotty here at the office. I think he's back, but he's muted, yeah? Okay. You tell him I didn't do it.
Can you hear me, Robyn?
Yep, I got you now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm having some difficulties with my phone. I've got to get connected back to my Bluetooth here. And while I'm doing that, talk a little bit about how you find your contractors.
Okay, contractors is an art form, I can tell you that. There's 2 ways to rehab a house: handymen, and then what I call the mature grown-up adults. So I want to focus on the mature grown-up adults. I don't use handy Harrys that are paid by the hour, where I have to buy all the materials and I got to go run after them. I did that and made those mistakes early on. A mature grown-up adult, what we do, James, is we come up with a detailed scope of work. It spells out all the SKU number and the brand names of everything I want in the house, like which towel bar, which toilet paper holder, which, you know, vanity, which toilet. I'm very clear with what I want. And then we write up a contract that spells out, okay, the total price to do the bathroom is X with the list of all of these things that I choose. So that's the first thing, is to get somebody that will do a fixed price and not hours and materials. Mature grown-up adults, typically for me, I can pick them up at a supply house. So let me give you an example. If I'm looking for painters, I'll go to Sherwin-Williams and talk to the store manager there and ask them who they recommend. The store managers are compensated on commission on how many gallons of paint is delivered. So they know who's moving a lot of product and who's busy, and obviously who's priced right because they're busy all the time. So supply house managers are a good place to start. So if you need an electrician, go to an electrical supply house, plumbing supply house. Like I said, paint and drywall, that's Sherwin-Williams typically. So that's the first place to look. Next place for me is, I realize the really efficient, good contractors are going to be at the big box stores first thing in the morning when they open. So they'll be at Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards between 6 a.m. and 7. Our store opens at 6, so typically they want to get in there when the shelves are fully stocked, because the tractor trailers come in overnight. They know that, so they know if they wait till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, the shelves are picked over, especially with supply chain issues we've been having through COVID. That's why the really good guys are in early in the morning. So I'll go and get there real early and go looking for the trucks and see who's got signs on the side of their vehicle with what trays that they got. But again, I want to pick off the guys from 6 a.m. to 7. The next thing I also do is I can go to my local building department and look up permits that have been pulled and see, who's been pulling permits. If I go buy a house and it's run down and 2 or 3 weeks later, I go buy that same house and it looks like it's been renovated and is moving along quickly, then I want to go see who pulled all the permits on that. And that gives me a good idea who did it. So that helps. Once you get a couple contractors, a good plumber, a good electrician, I will harvest them for the others. So let me give an example. I'm in the middle of having flooring done at a house right now. It's a 4,000 square footer. I need somebody to install doors and trim because I fired the guy that I had for a while due to laziness. And so I just asked my contractors I have, I'm like, who's good with doors and trim? So they gave me 2 different names, called both of them, got them both to quote. What's your time frame? How fast can you order them? And then I picked 1 out of 2 of those that came with references and all that. So other contractors are really good if you got some good ones to bring in the ones that you don't have, because they all know who each other is. I hate to say it's a pretty close-knit community, but it is. Other rehabbers, I don't look at my rehabbers who do a lot. Like I've got one buddy here in town who rehabs about 60 houses a year. I'm doing like 30. So with him, I'll just call him and say, listen, I'm having trouble finding an electrician. You got any ideas? But then he's not afraid to ask me for a roofer if he needs one. And I don't look at my competition as a bad thing. We're all in this together. I mean, there's always times where I have more deals than not enough money, or more money than not enough deals. And so we just trade houses back and forth. So we don't have an adverse relationship with our competition in this town. We really look at it that we're all in this together and there's plenty for everybody. And I think that if you have that mentality, you can lean on the other rehabbers when you're short somebody that you need help with. My building department, my senior building department, the inspectors down there, they're pretty good with giving references out of who they like. Like if I go and talk to the plumbing inspector and I say, hey, you got any ideas who would be some really great plumbers to use? They'll usually give me a handful. They won't steer me to one or another, but they'll give me like 3 or 4. Obviously if the inspectors recommend them, you're not going to have any problems when they pull permits and getting their workmanship signed off on either. So building departments are another good one. Job sites, supply houses, fellow rehabbers. I hate to say it, Google. I mean, I like to use thumbtack.com. I've had better luck on thumbtack.com than on Angie's List. Thumbtack has been a good resource for me for like gutters, power washing, landscaping, pool cleaning, all those kind of services. So Thumbtack is another thing that I've used. So that's pretty much, there's like 5 or 6 good ones there.
So has COVID affected your rehabs as far as, being able to keep contractors and things like that?
COVID has, I think, thrown the entire world upside down. And I think some people have lost their friggin' mind. But yeah, it definitely had a big effect. We're not seeing it so bad now. But in the middle of COVID, I couldn't get windows for 21 to 23 weeks. So I went through quite a stage where if a house needed brand new windows, I wasn't buying it, no matter what I could steal it for. Now we're down to windows that were about 4 weeks. So we're back to normal there. Doors and trim are about 3 weeks out for me. Kitchen cabinets are about 2.5 weeks out for me. Flooring, they've got plenty. Paint, they've got plenty. Sherwin-Williams was having trouble getting paint, believe it or not. I use their super paint, and they were struggling for product for a while. But right now we're pretty much back to normal. Now, here's what I've been seeing over the last 6 weeks. Because the interest rates have got jacked up so far, and we're in the 7s now, a lot of the new construction stuff here in Florida is starting to slow. And with it slowing, they're getting to the point where these guys who put on 4 and 5 and 6 crews are starting to have to lay off their not so good folks. And so like the contractors are getting ready to pour foundations for me out in Branson was running 5 crews and they've just cut it to 3. And so now that they're having to cut back a little bit and, the money's not flowing like it was because there's not nearly as much new construction going on because the interest rates are so high. The contractor's pricing is starting to come down. So let me give you an example. I'm building a 6-bedroom house out in Branson. my lumber package has dropped $46,000 in the last 6 months. So like we priced the house out before the interest rates started going up. And now we just priced it out because we finally got roads and sewer and water and that all in last week. That lumber package has dropped $46,000 on a 3,800 square foot house. And so the contractors aren't as busy now as they were. They're not, oh, well, we'll see you in 3 months, or, oh, we'll see you in, 2 months. It's like, yeah, you need a new HVAC system. We can put that in next week. Oh, yeah, we're getting that job. Okay. Yeah, great. They're starting to call and say, are we getting the job? Are we getting the job? Because they're looking for work. So that helps the rehabber out immensely because the cost of renovations comes down. They're hungry for work. And then you don't nearly have the delays of getting stuff scheduled to get it done. And so I'm looking forward to it continuing a little bit. Now, I don't like the interest rates being as high as they are, but it's definitely helping me on the construction side for sure. So you just got to learn to roll with it no matter what you get. But, it does have its perks right now. So
a question in regards to, some of the things that you're dealing with and everything, like I've heard you say before multiple times that as soon as you get the house under contract, you're ordering stuff and
Yep.
getting it ready.
Yep.
So do you not put any kind of option period, or do you not have anything? If you put that house under contract, you're closing on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's my rule, and this is just me now, because I've been at this so long. Whenever I go out to look at a house, James, what I do is I estimate the worst case scenario. So if I think the roof is going to be 18,000, I may put 19 or 19.5. Because the older the house is, you can run into stuff. As you know, you can rip the walls up and find termite damage or structural stuff. So I have a little bit of cushion in every single repair category, from roofs to HVAC to plumbing to kitchens, all that. If it's something structural, I'm going to call my general contractor while I'm looking at it before I make the offer and say, hey, I need you to come over here right now and tell me what you think. Is it me, or is that, main support beam seem like it's sagging? Like the house I'm renovating right now, it's a 4,200 square foot ranch called Galloping Getaway. We're making it a vacation rental with a real Southwestern flair. And so it had severe termite damage. And so I could see there was some structural stuff going on. So when I was estimating repairs before I even made the offer, I had my general contractor come over there and do some poking and digging around. So we knew that, yes, there's going to have to be some structural stuff done. So that was a good negotiation tool for me with my seller. But anyway, once we got it negotiated, I told the seller I'm closing in 45 days. And he's like, okay, fine, or whatever. The first thing I do after we come to a contract signing is I ordered title search immediately, like literally within an hour. My title searches will come back here in Florida in 3 days through my real estate attorney here. And then I call up and say, hey, is there liens on this thing? Is it cleared probate? Are we good? And if they say, yeah, the title's clean and it's good, then that's when we start to order stuff. I don't order anything or have my guys, put out any kind of money to start getting stuff in until we're sure the title is clean as a whistle. That way we know we're closing. I've got the money and the title's good, then we know in 42 days we're coming to closing. So at that point, those 42 days is where I get all the guys in there. We design the kitchens, we design the bathrooms, I pick all the cabinetry, I pick the flooring, pick everything I want, and they can price it all. So I'm like, whoa, that kitchen came out like $3,000 too high. How can we, change this up a little bit? Well, we can take out the wine rack, we can take out the Lazy Susan, so we've got time. So typically within 2 weeks of the house being under contract, all the quotes and bids are finalized and signed off and agreed to on pricing. And then the guys have about 25, 30 days to make sure all the material's ready and on the job site for when we start. And literally day one of closing, it's a wrecking ball. I mean, day one, the roof's getting ripped off if we need a new roof. It's getting gutted on the inside day one, day two. The electricians are back in there day 3, day 4, and the plumbers getting all rough plumbing, rough electrical in, drywall's going. I mean, for me, the general rule is about $10,000 worth of work a week. So if it's a $60,000 renovation, it's 6 weeks. And I just fired a general contractor who just couldn't get that through his head. I mean, the house that I'm doing right now, he just couldn't get stuff done. And he was like, tell me, I can't get the drywall done. I'm like, okay, it's been a week and a half. I went away on a business trip, came back, it's not done. He's like, I can't get anybody. I made one phone call and had a 78-year-old guy show up who had 5 drywall crews, and he drywalled 3 days later. And I'm like, you had 2 weeks. It's pretty bad when a overweight old girl can get the damn stuff done and a guy that's in the trades can't seem to figure it out. But that's the difference between knowing how much it costs to carry your house a day and somebody who has no stake in the game. I mean, that's one of the things that I see most people make the biggest mistake is they just drag it out, can't make a decision. Well, maybe this kitchen, maybe this kitchen. Time is money. And let me give you an example of the house, James, so you understand. That house, when it's done and it's furnished, it rents out for $450 a night. So every day they screw around and drag it out, I'm losing $450 a night. And our main horse season starts here January 15th. And I'm like, guys, this house is going to be done one way or another on January 15th. I don't care. It's because I don't want to lose the horse people coming in for all of January, February, and March, because you figure out what does that cost at $450 a night times 2.5 months. And so one of the things I tell students all the time, nobody cares about your money as much as you. You got to make sure that they know that you're watching and you know the time frames on how long it takes to do stuff. A roof is a day, a kitchen's 2 days. I mean, flooring's going in at this house. It's 4,000 square feet. It's going to be done in 3 days. That's why I know how long it takes to do stuff. The thing it takes the most is your drywall, your tape, your sand, and getting your walls ready and removing wallpaper if you get it. But the other stuff does not take as nearly as long as some of these folks drag it out to be. And so time is something that I have learned over the years is the difference between if it takes out two months longer, it could cost me $10,000 in carrying costs. And so that's why I just want the thing done. Just want it done. And I want
get it done.
And I want people on my team who have that same belief. My guys make more money, the more houses they finish, the more money they make. So that's why
the other part is not only get it done, but get it done right, which kind of leads me to my next thing. You kind of touched on, I think, a little bit of it, but for a lot of people on this call have not done, between 450 and 500 flips or rehabs. So for somebody that's just done a few or that's just getting their feet wet, how does one know when they're getting the job done right and they're not overpaying for it?
Well, the first thing is every one of my guys has got to pull the necessary permits that are required. I do everything by code so that the city will endorse everything we do. That's first and foremost. People that don't want to pull permits and want to do stuff on the weekends when nobody's around, that's your first hint. The second thing is I check references big time. I check references of the last 3 or 4 jobs that they've completed. And if the contractor can't take me to see their work, that means the homeowner's pissed at them and doesn't want to let them back in. That's not a good sign. So that's something I'll ask to see their workmanship. The other thing too is once they give me a bid, I'm going to go down and talk to the building department and ask them, hey, have you ever seen XYZ roofing company? If the roofing inspector at City Hall rolls his eyeballs back and goes, oh God, not them again, I'm not hiring them. I mean, if his comment is, oh yeah, we've seen them, they're in here pulling permits every week. Yeah, they're all right. I mean, a roofing inspector is never going to say somebody's great. Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, we see them in here all the time. They've been in business a long time. They're good. Then that's an endorsement. So that's why for me, I'm gonna put them through the ringer and check them out. I'm going to check the Better Business Bureau, all that kind of stuff. And then the other thing is the test is what price do they come in at? And I just had a roof bid. I got a bid of 15.2, I got a bid of 22, and I got a quote of 19. So the first thing I asked them, one that's 15.2, are the dumpsters in the quote? Nope, they're not. Okay, well, why not? Well, I figured you were going to get them. No, I'm the homeowner. I got better things to do than order dumpsters and babysit that the neighbors don't put their refrigerators in there, right? The other guys quoted with dumpsters. And then I looked at the other ones and there was, the low one had no plywood in there. And I know I've got rotten plywood on one side of the house. So, oh, at 80 or 90, $100 a sheet, you're going to, sock me for, 20 sheets, and now you're going to raise that 15 up to 16 or 17. I said to him, I said, did you get up and put a ladder up and walk the roof? Get up there and see where it's soggy, see where it's soft? No, I didn't get out of the truck. I'm like, fantastic. You don't give a damn about my job site enough to get out and get the ladder out and get up there. The other guys did. And so for me, sometimes it's not the cheapest folks in town, it's quality. Because I want to make sure if I'm selling a house for $600,000 or $700,000 that all the rotten plywood's getting replaced. I don't want to put a new roof on and then the plywood's shot underneath. Then there you go. In 2 or 3 years, they're going to have to tear the roof off again. And so that's why I'd be very careful with the cheapest. If they're way lower than 3 or 4, if you got 5 roofers come out and 4 of them are all about the same price and you get one that's really low, I'd be careful of that. The other thing I like to see is how long they've been in business. And I like guys that's been in business 15, 20 years. A little bit leery about the brand new ones because they like to give you a low offer and then keep raising it. Or they give you a low offer and then they drag it out and go, oh my God, this is so much more work than what I thought it was. Some of them will play that game just to try to up the price after they got the job. So that's why I make sure that everybody's clear. It's a fixed price that does not change no matter what.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah, because they like to do that. Oh, it's $50 an hour plus. And then that gives them they get to stick their hand in your checkbook. And that's not the way it works.
Yeah. So let's, if you don't mind, Robyn, let's take a minute and pause. We do. Sure. I still want to get into the vacation rentals.
Good.
And as far as like where the market's going. But first, You've mentioned a couple of times about, and I have too, about you coming to Texas. So how has the links that he's going to be putting in the chat, and then also he's going to be posting it on the streams as well.
Yep.
So how you could post those.
So I'm coming to Houston and San Antonio both.
Yeah, San Antonio, you will be here January 10th. That is for our monthly main meeting. Mm-hmm. And so Hal will drop that. And then you'll be in Houston for the 14th, right. Which that is also our main meeting. And then also on the 14th and 15th, after the meeting from 1 to 5, and then also 9 to 5 on Sunday, she will be there as well, going even deeper into the rehabbing and the vacation rental stuff. And then she'll be returning to San Antonio on the 21st and 22nd to do the weekend deal there as well. And guys, this weekend, the monthly meetings are free. The weekend deals, this is a steal for what you're going to get. It's both days. It's $79 for members if you're a member of Alamo RIA or Greater Houston RIA, and it's $99 for non-members. That's just an absolute steal. So
each day, or is that total?
That's both days.
So that's $79. I get to come to both days?
Yes.
Damn, I'm almost not worth the price of the movie ticket. I went to see Maverick and took my farm manager and dang near spent $79.
So
do you want me to give
it's kind of like a Christmas New Year's gift. It's a Christmas / New Year's gift.
I can give them some presents if you want me to for them coming out. Do you think that would help?
Okay. Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking, because it's been quite a while since I've been there. I know that because of COVID. I don't think I've been there since COVID hit. So here's what I want to do. On the first day, on Saturday afternoon in Houston, or all day Saturday in San Antonio, we'll cover the rehab stuff. What I want to do is cover marketing to find high profit deals, and that'll bring in both keepers and flippers. So we'll cover marketing strategies to find high profit deals. I'll tell everybody what I'm doing right now to bring my deals in. And just to give you rough numbers, the house I just bought, I bought it for $435. I'm putting 100 into it, puts it into $535, and it's worth about $775. So we'll talk about how do you find high profit deals. Then what I want to do is the 9 types of houses to never buy. And this is really gonna stick, especially if we go into a recession. You want to be looking at selling a house before you buy it, because these interest rates going up, guys, are driving the monthly payment up when these young couples out of sight. So let me give you an example. I've got a house that's selling for $410 on Friday. If the young couple who are retired military would have bought this house 7 months ago, their payment was $2,200. The payment they're closing on Friday is $3,200. So it's $1,000 more a month. So as these interest rates keep climbing, what people can afford is less and less and less. So that's why you really want to make sure you're focusing on a really drop dead gorgeous house when it's done, so the buyers have a reason to buy, because many of them are going to sit on the sidelines hoping the rates are going to come back down. So you got to look at your exit before you enter. So we need to make sure you understand what are the 9 types of houses to never buy, so that you've got one that everybody will want. So I want to make sure we cover that. And then I want to go through contractors, School of Hard Knocks. I want to go through the independent contractor agreement on how to hold them to price, to time frame, and to quality standards. We'll go through the 9 paragraphs of a rock solid independent contractor agreement and how to write a detailed scope of work so that they buy all the materials, so you're not lugging all that stuff. And really, James, I don't want anybody buying materials, because it opens up that whole IRS tax mess of, are you their employer? Should you be covering workman's comp? I need to make sure everybody understands how to write a good, solid, independent contractor agreement so they're not your employee, because God forbid if somebody gets hurt on your job site. So I want to make sure they know that. I've got an audio program called The Best Houses to Flip versus the Best Houses to Keep. It's about an hour and a half. I'm good to bring out one of those for everybody that comes out to your nightly meeting, if you want me to do that. And then I got one that's all about rehabbing and wholesaling called Creating Big Fat Checks. So I've got 2 audio programs that are an hour and a half in each. So I think that would be good to give those out as gifts to everybody, especially the new folks, because that really will help them understand what is a deal and how to analyze a house when they're out looking at them. So I want to do that. The vacation rental stuff, I've got about 3 good handouts that they need. I'm going to give them the cleaning team procedures, because that's the most important thing, is to get 5-star reviews. You've got to have a really great cleaning team on the vacation rentals. I mean, today was a perfect example. I had 4 houses where guests were checking out at 10 o'clock this morning and new guests checking in at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and those houses have to be immaculate. So those are the procedures that my cleaning team in Branson use. So I'll give them that. The shopping list of everything you got to buy to take a house from a vacation rental to, or from a rental to a vacation rental. The last house I converted, I did it in 2 days. Every day that you don't have that house done because you're running back and forth to Walmart, you're losing $150, $200 a day. So the shopping list is critical. And then I want to give them the IRS spreadsheet from my CPA of how do you turn over all the numbers to your accountant to get your taxes done on a vacation rental. So that's an accounting spreadsheet that I guarantee you nobody's got. And just so you guys know, my accountant is retired IRS after 10 years. So he damn well knows what the IRS is looking for and zoning in on. So I'll go ahead and bring those spreadsheets for everybody for coming out. So that's what, 3 spreadsheets.
And that's
marketing.
And that's it though. That's for everybody that comes to the monthly meeting.
What I'm going to do is give the 2 audio programs for the nightly meeting, and then all the rest of the stuff will be for the weekends.
Okay.
So they get 2 audio programs for coming to the nightly, and then all the handouts. I'm going to cover the handouts on the weekends.
And by the way, are you still self-managing all of these, or you have somebody that manages?
No, I've got 12 that I manage. It takes me about 2 hours a week. Matter of fact, that's what I was doing right before we got on the call. I did all my check-ins for the next 7 days. A lot of my stuff is auto responder programmed in. The hardest part is putting up a brand new house, like the one I'm just getting ready to finish. It'll take me all day to load all the pictures and write all the captions and all that stuff. But once it's up and running, if you got it on Instabook, it's really not much to manage. I do a cleaning schedule once every 2 weeks, send that out to the cleaning team, which I just did right before I got on. So it takes me about 2.5 hours a week to manage 12. Now, when I get 50, I will hire a full-time person for that. You know, the reason I don't have a property management company, to be honest with you, they take 15 to 20% of your gross revenue, which means they're taking 20 to 25% of your net profit. My vacation rentals last year did $1 million this at the end of 2022. We're pretty close. We're at $963,000. There's no way I'm giving 15% of that to somebody for something that takes 2 or 3 hours a week. No way. You know, and you think about it, if a pipe broke on a Friday night and they're closed, your guest has got nobody responding back to them till Monday. Like when it was minus 17 degrees the other night in Branson, one of my houses lost heat. The guest texted me and said, hey, it's 58 degrees in here. I'm like, hey, thanks for telling me so my pipes don't freeze. I'm calling the HVAC contractor right now, who came out a couple hours later, and then they threw it into emergency heat mode, and then they ordered the part. I mean, if that went to a property management person on a Friday night, that house would have frozen burst, and that would have been real bad. So to me, it's not hard to manage it. If you build your autoresponders in, the check-in instructions go automatically. It doesn't take much time to manage this stuff. It really doesn't.
Yeah. So guys, we dropped the links to the different events. There's quite a few of them there. There's 4 different events or 4 different dates that you got to look at. So we dropped those in the chat, and there also should be in the comments on Facebook and YouTube as well. But we are getting close towards the end. And so what I want to do before we get to the end here is there's a couple more things I want Robyn to talk about. And this is a 2-part question.
Sure.
One, why do you invest so much in vacation rentals? I think you've already touched on that. But then 2, the second part would be with the economy, with all the turbulence in the news and everything, the bottom's gonna
Fall out like
whatever.
2008.
Does that have you worried about vacation? I mean, obviously not. You're building 100 of them, so.
Well, it could have me worried, but let me just cover why I'm not so worried as many others are. Number one, the first thing is the reason I am investing in vacation rentals and putting my money there is because of the fact the returns are so high. And I mean, I spent 14 years in the Section 8 world, where I had a lot of low-end rentals where you'd buy the house for 20, 30, 40,000, fix it up a little bit, get it rented Section 8 going $900 a month. Maybe your mortgage payment's $500 a month and you're supposed to be collecting $900 a month, and somewhere you're supposed to be making $400 a month, and it would be great. But what I learned with the low-end rentals, they move a lot. And every time somebody moves out, the carpet's ruined and it has to be painted. So if I have somebody move out every year, it's going to cost me $5,000 to get the thing back up and ready to go renting again. So after 14 years and 17 low-end rentals, I barely had hair left on my head, and I got sick and tired of eviction court. And so I said, I'm done. So I sold all that stuff and I moved to Florida. And so 2008, 9, 10, and 11 happened. And then when the prices hit the bottom in 2012, I decided to buy some nice rentals on golf courses with 0% financing, seller carry, which I did. I did 21 of those and I kept them, and they all got paid off. And so one of my friends encouraged me to buy a vacation rental, and I told them they were nuts. I'm like, who's going to wash the sheets? Somebody's coming in and out every 3 to 4 days. I don't want to manage this thing. And so he kept harping on me, and I did. Well, my place was renting for $1,250 a month, and it ended up doing $32,000 the first year as a vacation rental, only on Airbnb. I didn't even know Vrbo or bookings.com or any of that other stuff was there. And I thought, holy man, if this thing makes 2.5 times what it did as a rental, there's got to be something to this stuff. So 3 years ago, right before COVID, I bought every vacation rental book there was on Amazon, and I hopped on a cruise ship between Christmas and New Year's and read them all cover to cover. Took every class I could get my hands on and started getting into the vacation rental stuff. And what I learned is just as easy to get $700 a night as it is to get $99 a night. So I started focusing on the nicer ones that hold 20 people, where there's lots of attractions. And so Branson, Missouri got ranked #1 in the nation. So I bought a house in Branson. It slammed it. I bought another one. It slammed it, a little bit bigger one. And so I am locked and loaded in Branson. Now, that brings me to the recession. Because they make 3 times what a normal rental will make, I can go ahead and cut my prices under everybody else so that I get booked when the other ones don't. So let me use an example. Right after Christmas and New Year's, Branson has nobody for January and February because that is the slow season. So everybody leaves their houses at $450 to $600 a night. Their thing is nobody comes to Branson in January and February. What I said is I'm going to price my house at $199 a night. If one person's coming to Branson, I want to get them. Well, I'm booked 25 nights out of 30 when everybody else has got zero. So my houses are doing like $10,000, $12,000 more than everybody else does. And so what I do is take all that extra profit, put it on my mortgage, get my mortgage paid way down. And at that point in the game, if we go into a recession, I don't owe much. My payments are on adjustables or on commercial lines of credit. So they adjust every year so that all the extra I keep sending, my payments keep dropping. So everybody else has got high payments because they spend what they make and I don't. And so for me, coming into the recession, my LTVs are very low. And that's what I teach students to do. I teach them to get the houses making a lot, get your headlines optimized, get lots of bookings, go ahead and make it pet friendly, because 85% of the people want to travel with their pet, but only 15% of our vacation rentals are pet friendly. Go ahead and get the houses doing a whole lot. Take all that big extra chunk of money you got and get that damn mortgage paid down. And then if you come into a recession and you got to cut your rates, your payment's lower than all your neighbors and you're just fine. And then also there's a lot to picking them in the right locations where your seasons are long. That's why for me, Branson, Missouri, the season's 10.5 months out of the year. Florida, the season's 12 months out of the year. That's why half of mine are in Florida and half of mine are in Branson. So when it's busy in Branson, I thought it would be slow in Florida. But I found out it's always busy in Florida and it's pretty much always busy in Branson too. So the seasons are long in Branson and Florida. I would not want to own stuff, you know, say on the Carolina coast because, you know, the beaches there are beautiful. They're beautiful from May till October. My son's house in North Carolina, he's empty from October through April. He's got to make all his money in 6 months. And then he hardly makes anything all winter long. I don't like that. So I like vacation rentals that produce money 12 months out of the year. So you got to be picky about where you buy. We'll spend a lot of time on where are the best ones, how do you pick the best ones, how do you evaluate them to make sure you're buying the right one. Because picking the right one, it is a really profitable business, but you got to be careful with what you buy. It's got to be somewhere safe. It's got to be close to attractions. It's got to be close to national parks, close to hospitals. You know, if you pick a house that's close to a hospital that does transplant, you're definitely looking at people that are going to do long stays. I mean, I have one house right now here in Florida that is booked January 28th to March 8th, straight through. One booking. That's why getting the long bookings, that's important. And so we'll talk a lot about that on Sunday. I can't wait to do that with you guys because I want to make sure you're educated fully on how to evaluate them and make sure you buy the right ones.
I was just fixing to ask, do you do anything with the traveling nurses or
Yep.
short-term rentals for nurses?
Yeah, I have had 2 sets of those. Where I usually get them is when I'm putting a house up for the very first moment. When it's brand new, they'll snag it for 4 months. You know, once the house is up and cooking with gas, they usually, you know, it's not open for 4 months straight. But you can target straight for them if you want. There's websites where you can just go ahead and put your house up there. The great thing about traveling nurses is they're clean, boy. When they leave, it's as clean as when they got it. They don't leave you a mess because, I mean, you know, they work in a clean environment of a hospital. So especially if you get the ones that are residents. And so they have been fantastic guests.
Well, good deal. This has been amazing. Lots of interesting things. I hope you guys took lots of notes. I mean, just tonight, you know, has been, you know, a lot of value. We got just a few minutes left.
Are there any questions in your chat?
Let me see.
Did anybody ask any questions in the chat?
Hal, do we have any questions on YouTube or Facebook?
Okay. How do you, one more time on the question, how to know what and when? I hate to say it comes
Yeah,
with experience, but it does.
Yeah.
It comes with experience for sure. I don't know. I'm probably pickier than anybody else on the job quality. For me, what I do is I do a punch list, usually 24 to 48 hours before they expect to be paid their final draw. And I'm the one that does it. So I walk through the house and nitpick. I can see stuff that's not right that nobody else seems to be able to see. But that's just me.
Okay.
How do you know is that
yeah.
as the house done right? And then how do you know you didn't pay too much?
Yeah, that was the question.
For me, I go and do a punch list. I personally walk the house. I tell the guys, if you want money on Friday, I need to know by Wednesday so that I have time to go through the house top to bottom. I mean, I'm a fanatic that when it has to be done, it has to be done. And done means the dumpster's gone, the house is cleaned, all the debris is gone. They've cleaned up after themselves and they leave me absolutely no mess. I'm not their maid and I'm not their wife. I make that perfectly clear. Now, as far as paying too much, I have a tendency to be okay to pay a little bit more than most rehabbers are, as long as the quality is there and the speed is there. Because I'm looking at time, how fast can you get it done? And then the quality cannot be sacrificed. So I typically pay a little bit more for folks than what some of my competition does, but they expect, you know, it to be done dirt cheap, and then it looks like it was done dirt cheap too. My guys are all licensed and insured and carry workman's comp on all of the folks on the job site. So my guys are a little bit more pricey than everybody else, but at least I know if somebody gets hurt on my job site, they're not going to sue me for everything I'm worth because there's workman's comp to cover them. So I take all those factors into consideration on price and the reputation also. One way I know I didn't get screwed on pricing is I get at least 3 bids on everything that I do. If somebody comes in a good price 2 or 3 times in a row and they get like 3 roofs in a row, then I'm not going to competitive bid them after that unless I think the price went up and it shouldn't have. Once you've earned my business, you kind of get to keep it as long as you don't do anything stupid. But the minute you start getting greedy, next. And I hate to say it, my favorite word is next. Like the guy that I just fired, he figured he was never going to get fired. My general contractor. And I'm like, dude, things take too long and prices don't seem right. I'll take the job site back over and run it. I'm not afraid to do that. Because again, nobody cares about my money as much as I do.
So we did have another question come in. What is your thoughts or feelings on a GC, general contractor, versus subbing everything out? Okay,
for me, we're going to cover this at the event, but I have 8 mature grown-up adults. I got a roofer, a plumber, electrician, an HVAC contractor, a general contractor who does everything the other 7 doesn't. I've got a flooring contractor. So the general contractor for me does all the interior paint, drywall, doors, windows, glass, insulation, framing, and structural stuff. So they actually physically have to work. This is where my guy got lazy and didn't want to work. My general contractor, I expect to be there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon with his crew of folks, him swinging hammer side by side with his team. A general contractor to me is not some lazy dude that walks up, looks at the thing, makes up a bunch of numbers, and then gets paid $2,000 from the roofer, $2,000 from the electrician, $2,000 from the painter, and he just basically makes phone calls. That is not what I do. My general contractor needs to be a working participant. He bids his stuff just like the other 7 bid, and then he gets hired for a fixed price. There's no uplifting for all the other folks. So if I need a roofer, I sign a contract with a roofer. There's no subcontracting through the general contractor on a roofer. There's no subcontracting for a plumber. I need a plumber, I hire the plumber. So that's why my general contractor's got a list of stuff they have to do, including demolition, tear out, and all that. They're the first team there and they're the last team to leave. But they've got responsibilities and they have to bid that just like everybody else. So I run my job site a little bit different than most. I don't let the general contractor pick the plumber, the HVAC, and the electrician.
Awesome. Hal, were there any more questions on Facebook or YouTube?
Okay, I got a question.
All right.
So class is starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're going through till about 5:30. Is that right?
On the weekend?
Yep.
Yes. In San Antonio, yes. It'll be on the weekend will be 9 to 5 both days.
Okay. Everybody needs to bring about 30 pages of blank notebook paper and a strong cup of coffee and be ready to go. James, what I'm going to ask you to do is let's just order food in by Uber Eats or something for me and you. I'm going to stay in. I'm not going to go out to lunch. So I can inhale a sandwich in about 15 minutes. That way they get to ask me all kinds of questions all through lunch. And I'll stay late after class for any questions they need answered. I'm not going to go anywhere. So I'm there for them to get as much information out of me as they possibly can in the time that allows. And then the other thing I'm going to need from you is a ballpark idea how many people will be at each one of the nightly meetings, or the nightly meeting in San Antonio and the early meeting on Saturday morning in Houston, so I can make sure I have enough of the audio programs with me. The best houses to flip versus keep, and then rehabbing creates big fat checks. Those two audio programs that I will bring, I need to know roughly how many people will need, so I can make sure I have enough of that in my luggage to bring with me. So you can just text me that or whatever.
Okay. Well, that wraps up for our show on YouTube and Facebook. So thank you, Robyn. And thanks everybody for being here and watching. And we look forward to seeing you at the meetings. Get registered. You have the links there. Get registered so that we can make sure we have enough of those free gifts that Robyn's going to be bringing.
Yeah, I got to make handouts and all that stuff too. So everybody not wait till the last minute, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you,
So,
I mean, I don't know what you have for seats and stuff too. So they probably oughtn't to wait till the last minute. I think the last time I was in San Antonio, people got turned away at the door.
Yeah. So Hal, you can go ahead and end the stream on Facebook and YouTube. This is